Thanks for bearing with us there. Apologies for those technical difficulties, but I hope you agree with me that 3 quite wonderful pieces of content, cinema, or branded entertainment. And one of the questions that I think leapt out at me when I saw the title of this session was, well, what is branded entertainment? What constitutes branded entertainment? Well, that clearly does. I think what I'd like to try and do in this panel is to represent the brand side, if you like, because unfortunately we don't have the guys from Philips who commissioned this with us, and they would have been the ideal people to speak from that perspective. But I think what's important for us sitting in this hall today is branded entertainment, i.e. that which is generated by a large brand. Is it now the measure of competition for those who want to have projects written, produced, and screened? And I think what these guys from Ridley Scott Associates are in a unique position to do is to give us a perspective on both sides, because Barney, who directed the third, obviously, of those short films, is working on branded content and also working on other projects as well. So what I think I'd like to start by doing is maybe ask Damiano to give us a quick trot through the genesis of this project with Philips and how it was actually put together, if you would.
Okay, October last year, DDB came to us and came with a brief with the 6 lines of dialogue, and they asked us to, we gave it out to about 50 of our directors. They all wrote 50 ideas, and we then went to DDB and presented the 50 ideas, and they went back to the brand, and the agency decided, they whittled it down to about 10 scripts, I think, and then after much debate with us, budgetary-wise, we brought it down to about 5, and then in party with Unit 9, the budget was, we produced the films with Unit 9 doing the website, and they were shot between November and February.
What I think is important as well with these films is that it wasn't just a film. There was a major digital aspect to this, and that was absolutely core to the project.
Yeah, I mean, basically they all were premiered in April the 9th online, and at the same time they were launched in 5 markets the same day. So directors I went to Amsterdam with Greg. High Sim, the animated film, went to Belgium. There was a very offline-online launch.
And as we look into the future, the kind of projects that Ridley Scott Associates are involved with and the kind of projects you want to pull together, how important is it when you're working with a brand to have a degree of creative control? I mean, it's a very hackneyed old attitude that, as soon as you start working for the products and the ad men, that, all integrity goes out the window. Is that hackneyed?
Well, in this case, it was a great opportunity for the directors. They actually created the content themselves. And the agency were very hands-off. The 2 creatives felt quite relaxed to let the directors tell their own stories. And I think that's where we came in. It was great value for RSA, because we are effectively a film production company, a TV company, a commercials company, and a music video company. And we have that skill set, that value, we add that value. Whereas ad agencies, they're great at strategy and the 30-second commercial. So we're trying to push much more, working in party with agencies or with brands direct, to tell longer form stories for them. Actually more entertainment than sending brand messages.
And the correlation of those different elements, the transmedia approach that you're able to bring, what could that mean for us in the future? We're talking about maybe a book with a movie with a soundtrack all delivered in one package and developed by one company, but presumably that would have to be a company that had all those strengths within it in the way that RSA does.
I mean, our core set is telling stories visually, and so I'm much more of trying to connect with, it's great to be here, to connect with publishers, connect with games companies. I mean, I go to South by Southwest every year and try and meet all the interactive side, because ultimately they're all going to use video in some respect. And I mean, does that answer your question?
Yeah, and also speaking from the brand perspective now, presumably the immediacy of this kind of content, if you're actually accessing it online, gives rise to other opportunities, presumably like sort of product placement, more refined levels of product placement?
Well, I mean, my big thing is clickable video. I think that the future will involve you watching a film on your iPad or on your smaller screen, and it will project. It will be on your bigger screen. You'll be able to interact with the video. You'll be able to buy the trousers, buy the sunglasses. You know, I think there's going to be, and brands will be able to then know the message, know who's clicking when, and who's purchasing at what time in the film, and that will probably, hopefully, be a revenue model to pay for content as well, hopefully.
So ultimately, although you may start from a position that perhaps brands could be a killer of creativity, in actual fact, in a new model such as you've just outlined, potentially they could be offering filmmakers, producers, directors possibly
That's
more
the dream,
freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there needs to be much more trust with the creative, and especially we have proven it, and we make longer form products all the time, and I think that there's still a place for the 30-second in the live TV scenario when you've got sport and everything. But I'm loath the idea that you can chop up films. I think it's the last bastion of content that you can watch in the cinema with no break, and I think I'm just trying to marry creativity, technology, and brand engagement.
And on that note, turning to Barney, is there a difference in the way that you approach a film like this, which is generated ultimately from brand money for a commercial, very specifically product commercial basis, and the way you approach a longer form project, which is something that close to your heart, that you desperately want to see made?
I think the difference is really just in the timing, in that even a project that you initiate entirely on your own, sitting at your desk with no particular idea as to how it might be financed, at some point that project has to meet a marketplace, it has to meet production finance if it's going to be made. So the difference is that with something like the Parallel Lines films, fundamentally what they offer is an opportunity to make something, and they pose the question, which is, well, what is it that you want to make? And then, of course, if what you want to make is, if you're lucky enough that that's chosen, then you're in a pretty free position. I think one of the useful things about Philips as a sponsor of these films is that they have products that they make. They make televisions, and they make toothbrushes, and they make all manner of things. They don't make dramatic content, and so to a certain extent, they let the filmmaker get on with what they want to do, because they know that that's not their area of expertise. Whereas perhaps the more conventional financing route leads you inevitably to working with people who for whom the product is that piece of dramatic content, and then of course they inevitably should be more directly involved. It's their area of expertise as well. So it's been quite liberating. Of course, it's a different starting point than just sitting at home, in front of the computer dreaming something up. But I think the reality is that your idea always has to intersect with someone who wants to pay for it and people who want to watch it at some point.
Are you any prouder of content that you create from your heart than you are something which is created with maybe a different objective in mind to sell a television?
I think if the TVs were in the stories, then the answer would be that I was less proud of it, of course. But the difference here is that the branding as such really is all in the frame. It's all in the context in which these films have been shown. We didn't mention at the start that my film, the one we just saw last, wasn't one of those 5 that was initially commissioned to sort of show off the widescreen TVs. It's a more recent commission made in 3D, although we obviously didn't just see it in 3D. And that was to give Philips something to show in stores, to show off what their 3D TVs can do, but to do so in a way that hopefully audiences will find engaging and interesting, alongside, for example, they show clips from Avatar or clips from Alice in Wonderland. So there's a lot of branding in the kind of periphery of the project, and there's branding in the way that it's delivered to an audience, but the actual project itself is remarkably unpolluted by any kind of commercial or corporate agenda, and that's been very liberating.
And I think that's, for speaking as the brand representative, I think that's a very important point, something that brands have realised and are coming to realise more and more, that in actual fact, if you want to get across some kind of very intangible brand value sometimes, that it is better to piggyback on the quality of content created than to try and interfere in the way that that content is created. And I know that certainly Jack has been involved with the YouTube Life in a Day approach, and I mean, I know that that's ultimately sponsored by LG, but a lot of the media around it, a lot of the PR, you didn't really see LG popping up very much, and I wonder if there's an echo of that there, that they're trying not really to hijack the project.
Yeah, I guess it was something that YouTube initiated, and so the terms of the sponsorship were on their terms, but and I think that LG made the film possible, and hopefully people who've been excited by the film have not felt that it is in the service of a brand, and that the entire film is to show a particular brand in a good light, and that's obviously reflected well on the film, which hopefully in turn reflects well on the brand. So that's a particular example of where this kind of certainly kind of strange symbiotic relationship between a brand and obliquely connected content can work. But clearly, I think we're talking about two examples where it's been a very happy, weird marriage. It clearly wouldn't be a template for everything, because I can't imagine this kind of brand-sponsored entertainment can apply in all cases.
And I think it's worth saying that, of course, we're talking to you guys from Ridley Scott Associates. Well, Ridley Scott is a fairly significant brand in his own right. And you obviously are, as Ridley Scott Associates, are a brand. So, do you have any thoughts on the importance and the way that has been facilitated, the fact that you are a big brand working with other big brands?
Yeah, I mean, for this film, Life in a Day, I don't know if you know anything about it, but it's been a huge hit thus far on YouTube, and is involved asking people from all over the world to submit footage on the 24th of July about their lives. And it was a kind of call from the director, Kevin MacDonald, and producer, Ridley Scott. And certainly being able to kind of have Ridley make a kind of direct call to action across the world has had a huge impact on the amount of engagement and participation we've had, which in turn has driven the excitement about the finished film, which will be finished in January, which in turn delivers the sponsoring company, much greater impact.
I mean, I could say the same thing about the Philips project. I mean, it's still live today. There was a sixth film went out for a competition, and we had 600 entries from all over the world. I sat through 314 of them and nearly died every night because there was so much violence and death. But we whittled it down to 30 films, and Ridley chose the final one about a week ago, which you can watch on philipscinema.com. And that is, again, the same thing, has driven a lot of, kept the brand going, kept the whole brand campaign going throughout the whole year. And it's just now, I think, up to the Christmas that we're actually going to see the traditional TV ads coming from the original offline product.
Again, one of the hallmarks of all of this is that it is not just a piece of cinema or a TV ad. This is an integrated campaign, across multiple channels, obviously, which is what brands are looking for. And maybe for people coming from purely a film, TV, cinema background, what they sometimes fail to appreciate is that content for a brand is already chopped and changed across multiple different channels, and those channels are proliferating. So actually it's something that everyone needs to bear in mind. If they're looking, presumably, to get a project off the ground, then it's not a bad thing to start thinking about where there are correlations and synergies, maybe with products and brands already.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, in the Philips case, it's obvious it's a TV screen, and they just wanted the content to, when you go to the site, you see the beautiful 21:9 TV everywhere, whether it's on the .com or whether it's the YouTube page, and